Hello, football fans. Welcome back to Goal Side. In several of the last few years, we have been witnesses to a great restructuring of how things are done in football. The revamping of financial fair play, rule changes in terms of handballs and offsides, transfer windows being shortened, the inclusion of goal line technology, the birth of video assistant referee, or VAR, as well as many other smaller aspects of the beautiful game. It's a time in which both young and old fans are introduced to new concepts, despite having grown up watching a sport that was so dearly loved by all in its previous untouched form. With features either now being removed or recently being put in place to make matches flow more fluidly, to balance out the competition, or simply for the sake of attracting more fans to the game. Some of these changes have been loved, others loathed, but it's certain that there is great discussion among football fans about everything that has been changed in their favorite sport. One of the strongest rules in modern football, added mostly as a warning at first, is the fact that clubs can now receive a very strong punishment if they break the rules in certain ways. The penalty? Being banned from transfer business for at least one transfer window, a punishment that could severely hurt any club, even those at the top of Europe. And unfortunately for one English club, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, or FIFA, decided that it was time to make somebody pay for illegal activities. On February 22, 2019, the English Premier League's Chelsea FC was banned from recruiting new players for 2 transfer windows, or 1 year of transfers, for breaching the rules surrounding transfers of players under 18 years of age, making the following official statement. Chelsea was found to have breached Article 19 of the regulations in the case of 29 minor players and to have committed several other infringements relating to registration requirements for players. The disciplinary committee sanctioned Chelsea with a ban on registering new players at both national and international level for the next 2 complete and consecutive registration periods. This ban applies to the club as a whole, with the exception of the women's and futsal teams, and does not prevent the release of players. The club was also fined 600,000 Swiss francs, or just over 543,000 euros, with the English Football Association also fined over 460,000 euros for allowing the breach to happen. It was disastrous news for the Blues, who were already preparing to let go of their star man and possible club legend, 28-year-old Belgian Eden Hazard, who had long been a target of the Spanish giants Real Madrid. With the departure of their best player and top goal scorer, and only the arrival of young American star Christian Mate Pulisic to soften the blow, it was inevitable that Chelsea had to react fast to control the damage that FIFA's decision was going to cause them. More importantly, they were going to need to move quickly to attempt an appeal with FIFA or with the Court of Arbitration for Sport if the former was unsuccessful. Unfortunately, the first attempt at an appeal was a failure. FIFA wasn't going to overturn the decision. The transfer ban was final, and Chelsea would have to start the new 2019-20 season without being able to strengthen their squad with new players. But things would get much worse. At the end of the 2018-19 season, around the month of May 2019, Chelsea announced that Maurizio Sarri, the club's manager and winner of their second UEFA Europa League, would be leaving the club to return to Italy, where he would be coaching Serie A giants Juventus FC. The veteran manager initially allowed Chelsea to tell an official story about how he wanted to go back to Italy to be near his parents, but the truth was that he had never been fully appreciated by the fans in West London, and that it had infuriated him more and more to be mistreated by them as the season advanced. With the long-awaited and long-dreaded departure of Eden Hazard taking place on June 7, 2019, the massive fee of between 100 to 146 million euros being transferred between Real Madrid and Chelsea for the transfer, as well as the departure of Danny Drinkwater, David Zappacosta, Michy Batshuayi, and Timeon Bakayoko on loans to other clubs across Europe, the West London club suddenly looked like it had ransacked by an angry horde. Who would play for them next? Did they even have a manager lined up? Things were getting increasingly bad for Chelsea, especially now that they had to worry about participating in the UEFA Champions League, an honor that didn't look so exciting now that their squad depth was at its worst. The board knew that no big manager would take the risk at a club unable to strengthen and with a track record for ending relationships badly with coaches before, and the Blues soon had a problem on their hand. Fortunately, one of their legends was watching the whole situation unfold and knew that it was time to return home. After important chats with the club, it was announced that Frank Lampard, yes, that Frank Lampard, would be returning to Chelsea, but this time as manager, after departing his job at Derby County FC, his first experience as a manager after retiring as a player in 2017. It wasn't what Chelsea fans wanted, but it certainly was what they needed. A manager who loved the club, who actually wanted to be there, and who would have the patience to bring them back to the top after winning the Europa League trophy at the end of the 2018-19 season. It was a manager who wouldn't leave or be sacked after a run of bad games, and who wouldn't start asking for new players. The transfer ban, for all it could have ruined their season, would allow Frank Lampard to start looking into the club instead of out. After all, Chelsea FC is one of the top European clubs with the most players on loan across Europe, and their academy is known for developing talented young stars. The decision was made. They would start recalling the players they needed and give a chance to those who had looked good for ages but couldn't break through into the first team. Loanees, reserves, and bench players suddenly had a chance to change their careers and be remembered as the loyal servants who helped the club when it needed them the most. It was a dream for any Chelsea youth, and the fight to rebuild began. The first move was to look for English players who could bring a new era to the club in terms of names, long as Chelsea been associated with importing foreign talent, desperately looking for Spaniards, Italians, and Brazilians, where English stars could have sufficed, but this seemed to be changing. In fact, the new revolution at the club now seems to be leading young players to take the mantle of those that came before them and play with a passion not seen at Chelsea for many years. Tammy Abraham, for example, a 21-year-old striker who had spent several years on loan at Bristol City, Swansea City, and Aston Villa without being given a chance at Chelsea, was recalled after a highly successful campaign at Villa, and even allowed to take the club's famous number 9 shirt, which was worn by such stars as Hasselbank, Crespo, and Torres. An England under-21 international, the striker has responded in his first matches at Chelsea as a first-team player, notching 7 goals in 6 matches, quickly becoming the top scorer in the Premier League and hitting a record hat-trick against Wolverhampton Wanderers, which made him the youngest player ever to score 3 or more goals at Chelsea. Another star which has been showing Chelsea that they never should have ignored him in search of incoming transfers has been Mason Mount, age 20, an attacking midfielder who has already scored 3 goals in 6, showing wonderful movement and excellent finishing from mid to long range with his curving shots. In fact, his amazing run of form has earned him an early call-up to the England national team, with which he played both matches of the September 2019 UEFA European Cup qualifiers against Bulgaria and Kosovo, getting a total of 30 minutes between both fixtures. However, it doesn't end there either. Players such as Fikayo Tomori, a center-back who scored a wonder goal against Wolverhampton, and Kurt Zouma, previously shipped off to Everton on loan, have received the chances to play with the big boys, certainly shining in a brief era of darkness in Chelsea's history. The truth is that Chelsea's form hasn't been all that bad for a club who are looking down at the abyss, other than a horrific 4-0 defeat at Old Trafford against Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United. The Blues have done extremely well in the new 2019-20 season with the players they have. These young stars performing better than most of the players they considered their stars for several years, such as Willian, Azpilicueta, and Jorginho, who have all admitted to watching these youngsters with awe and respect. One only has to remember the accomplishments of sides such as Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United to see what is potentially on the cards here with Chelsea's youth players, an era of domination for both club and country for many years, where a strong core of English footballers helps ease in foreign stars and bring balance back to the blue side of London. Bayern Munich and FC Barcelona, similarly, are world-class sides that have been built on German and Spanish or Catalan cores, respectively, forming not only the clubs and taking them to the top of Europe, but also serving to feed their national teams with talent. A transfer ban of this magnitude could serve as the necessary ingredient for a top Premier League side such as Chelsea to start developing the English talent they've had all along. It could be the age that England has been waiting for since 1966, when they won their only World Cup, in which they finally returned to competing for the big trophies. And with players such as Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling, Harry Maguire, Jadon Sancho, and Marcus Rashford already making a name for their country, perhaps it's only Chelsea's youngsters missing from the squad for England to reach new heights. Admittedly, only time will tell if Chelsea can actually produce the players they need to change their fate in this upcoming season, alongside Frankie Lampard. But the first signs have been positive. Many goals scored, a hopeful core of youngsters, and the fan base understanding and patient of their situation. It could be much, much worse for the West London side. Perhaps, just perhaps, this transfer ban that initially threatened to tear them apart is now looking more like a blessing for the side, and they will set the foundations for a positive future in the years to come. If it turns out as they hope and the youngsters become mature, top-level professionals, Chelsea FC could become a force to be reckoned with in time. This has been all about the analysis of Chelsea FC's transfer ban and the question of whether it can be a blessing in disguise for the club. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe to our channel for more amazing football content. We'll see you in the next video right here on Goal Side.